4.3 billion people belong to a religion that is based on the book of Genesis. But only 15 million people can actually read the original text in Hebrew. It is believed in the Jewish tradition that the book of Genesis has 70 different interpretations, and that each interpretation might have 4 different layers. And so it is possible that altogether we have almost 300 different interpretations to that book. And most of those, if not all of them, are lost in translation. What if I could tell you that there's actually no difference between the Big Bang Theory and what's written in Genesis chapter 1? What if I could show you that the meaning of the word God is not what you think? What if I can show you that it's lost in translation, that the snake is not even crafty, cunning, or deceiving, is actually very truthful, and that's not why he's getting punished? I can show you many things that are lost in translation, and I'm going to start today with only the first day of the book of Genesis, only the first day of creation, first 5 verses, and with those I'm going to show you that there is no difference between science and the book of Genesis and God's creation on the most basic level, but also on the deepest level, the most deepest physical level possible known to science today. So let's get started. So like I said, we have 4 different layers for reality, 4 different perspectives. There is a simple way of understanding what's written, and that's what you read is what you get. Second one is the hint. That's how things happened so far. What is the past of our present? The explanation is how this past came to be. And the deepest level there is, which is the secret. And I'm going to go over all 4 of those one by one, showing you those 4 layers in the first day and how much of that is actually lost in translation. And so we'll get started. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Let's go over it. In the beginning, the Hebrew word is Bereshit. The reason this word is translated in the beginning is because we have this letter before the word, the bet, which in Hebrew means in the, and therefore the translation is in the. Second word, or the word itself without this letter, is Reshit. Reshit is constructed on the root head. This is the root of the word in green square over here. Reish Aleph Shin, head, Rosh. And so since the creation of the world is considered to be the birth of the world, and you can find it on verse 4, chapter 2, it is actually said in Hebrew that this is the birth of, or a variation of the word birth of the world. And so since creation of the world is a birth, and in birth the head comes first, then this word, this is based on the word head, must mean first. And so we have in the first. Since this is just wrong translation, it's translated as in the beginning. Second word bara. We know it's not created because created in the Hebrew text appears in the second chapter already. That's the word yatzar. And it is not really known what this word means, but not proper creation. It's considered to be creating out of nothing. That's the explanation in Hebrew for this word. Third word, Elohim, translated as God. Now, a very important thing is lost in translation on that word. When you read God, you read something that is in single, one God. But the word in Hebrew ends with these two letters, and these two letters signifies that we're talking about something that is plural and not single. And so this word, I'm not gonna presume as if I know what the word God means, what's the deepest meaning of that, but it's actually something that is many and not just one. And these two letters alone already mean God. And so it's not for nothing that this word, and if you look at that, these two letters mean God. These three letters mean goddess, as in female. And with these two, you have plural. So you have in one word saying that it's male, female, and many, all in one word. And you don't have it in the word God. Now, what did he create? He created the heavens and the earth. In Hebrew, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. I'm going to show you what's lost in translation once we move to the second verse. Second verse. And the earth was. Not now. The word now does not appear in the Hebrew text. I don't know why it was added. And the earth was chaos. It was chaotic. I'll accept formless, but empty, it does not say so. So this word was added, and I have no idea why. And darkness on the surface of the deep. Over the surface, on the surface, close enough. But the word deep, English is not my mother tongue. It's not my first language, as you probably understood already. And so when I hear the word deep, I'm thinking about deep waters. I'm thinking about the sea, the ocean, or just a deep hole. And the word in Hebrew, tehom, it's a deep place where you can find water. The better translation for that word in English would be well. The underground water in Hebrew are called mei tehom. These are the waters within this place. Okay? And the Spirit of God, which loses in translation the other meaning of this word in Hebrew. The word in Hebrew, it says Ruach Elohim. Ruach, translated as a spirit, can also be translated as wind. Hovering, again, it's on the surface, not over, but on the surface of the water. Waters, to be honest, I have no idea what's the difference. Either way, the first question you want to ask is, where did the water come from? So I just told you about a well. There is a well, so there is water. But The well and the darkness on the surface of the well, over the surface of the well, is one of the descriptions of earth. And so if we have water, God should have created them. When? Where? Now I'm going to go back to the first verse because that's what you lost in translation when you translated this word, shamayim, to heavens. The word in Hebrew is actually a combination of two words, shamayim, and that means water over there, water. And like every other place in the scriptures and in any other place that I can think of even today, the name of the place is based on what you have in the place, what happens in the place, who owns the place, the person who lived there. There's something that happens. But the place itself does not have a name if there is no connection to something that happens in that place. And so, Shamayim, heavens, is a place. And the name of the place tells you that there are water over there. How is it possible? It's just a place. And the only thing God created is earth. And so we understand we have water there. How did they get there? Still a question. We're going to keep it at that for now till finish the first day, and then I'm going to start showing you what those differences in translation are all coming together to. What can you combine them to? What kind of explanation you can have. Third verse. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Hebrew text is God said there is light, and there is light. Not let there be. It's not not necessarily in the future tense, but I also don't understand this word let there. What does that mean, this phrase let there? But I'll keep it at that. It does not really change anything, but I want you to understand is what saying means. It's nothing that is lost in translation, but it will be connected to what's lost in translation before and after. And so saying something or saying something is the opposite of seeing. In what sense? In the next sentence we have that God saw that the light is good. And here we have saying. Now, we each have, or most of us have, 5 different senses. We get input from our eyes by seeing, our mouth by tasting, our ears by hearing, our nervous system by touching, our smell with our nose. This is the input that we're getting. But we also have outputs, and one of them is talking. And so what you need to understand is that this word in Hebrew, or even in English, said, that means that now we're talking about output. He admitted light, projected light, but it was an output. Okay? Next. And that is again lost in translation. And, just like you have it here, and God said, also here, it's this letter, va, va, va. This letter in the beginning should be, like I said, not now, but and. And the earth was. And God said, and God saw that the light was good. There is no was over here. He saw the light as good. That's how he saw it. He saw it as good. He didn't see that it was good. He saw it as good. That means that He decided it was good. And he separated between, he separated the light from the darkness, losing the most important thing in this sentence in translation. What's lost here is that it's not separate the light from the darkness, but separate between the light and between the darkness. It's as if he's taking the light and separating it from itself, and taking the darkness and separating it from itself. The only way to do so is to separate the light by darkness. It's like separating the light to two different places, putting the darkness between them, and doing the same to the darkness, separating the darkness to two different places and putting the light between them. So he's separating between the light and between the darkness, not one from another. And the last verse, God called the light day and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day. Hebrew text. And God called light day, and the darkness called night. And there was evening and there was morning, day, one day. Not the first day, but one day. Also, I want you to understand that now we have, when we say God called the light, okay, that means that he's now giving a definition. He's not creating anything, but he's defining something. And let's start explaining what those differences actually do to the text. For that, I'm going to open Paint, and I'm going to go over those 4 layers that I've explained before. Simple way of understanding, the hint, the explanation, and the secret. So I'm going to start with a simple way of understanding. Okay? So God created heavens and earth. And so we have heavens, and we have earth, and darkness over the deep. That's the surface. And at the bottom, we have water. Maybe not at the bottom, maybe the water is somewhere else. Let's say just rain or something. And we have the Spirit of God, which is wind, blowing over the water, or over the water over here. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Separated, saw the light is good, and separated the light from darkness. So either the separation is between this and this, or the separation is between this and this by this, by the heavens, by the sky. But either way, this is close enough to show you what the simple way of reading the text tells you. Now let's go one level deeper and look at the hint, which is already much, much deeper. So I'm going to clear this, and let's do this. So God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens, as we said, is a place. Let's say this sheet of paper is my place, and the earth. Okay, so I'm adding the earth, which is actually a thing. We have a place and we have a thing. Thing, matter, would be a better description. And the earth was chaotic. Chaotic, no, something like that. And darkness over the surface of the deep. So let's create kind of a deep and put darkness over the surface of it. And the Spirit of God hovering on the surface of the water. I'm going to add water at the bottom of the well, bottom of the deep. And I'm going to add the Spirit of God hovering over the wind. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. That's the next thing that happened. So there is now light. Saw that was good. And he separated light from darkness. But as I said, he separated between light and between darkness. So to do so, I'm going to separate light into different places by darkness. And now we have separation of light. And I'm going to put in the middle of the light piece of locked in darkness. So this darkness is now separated from itself. So darkness is separated by light, and light is separated by darkness. And he called the light day, the darkness night. And there was evening and there was morning. What he's actually doing, he's defining time. When he's telling us now the definition of light, of the light is going to be day. And so he's actually defining the word as what's creating time, as also we know and understand today. Without light, we could not understand the concept of time. And he's defining that. And then time just unfolds by itself. Time moves forward by itself. He doesn't need to do anything else. Once he gave the definition of day, and he gave the definition of night, that's it. There was morning and there was evening automatically. Because these are the borders between day and night. Right? You have morning between night to day, and you have evening between day to night. And so when you have all four of those, morning, day, evening, night, you have one day. Not the first day, but one day. So what he created now is the concept of time, the movement of time, that tells you how to read this from the beginning, from this point till this point. That's what he tells you. How to read the drawing that I just made. That's the starting point, and that's the end. And I want to show you that. That's the way science believes and describes the Big Bang expansion. My drawing might be poor, but it's not hard to see that it's very, very similar. You have something in chaos, something that is formless, quantum fluctuations. Then you have something that looks like water, Then you have, I'm not going to go deeper than that for now. I'm going to explain most of those things in a much deeper way once we get to the third layer. But for now, I just want you to understand why it looks the same. You have the dark ages over here. That's on the darkness over the surface of the deep. Then you have light. You have one slice of light. All of it is light. No darkness. And so just like here, you can already see that light is separated from darkness. So that's not what he's doing. Now what he's doing, he's separated light by darkness and separated darkness by using light. And so he accelerates the expansion. He expands the whole universe, expands space, and the galaxies are going further and further away, and so they're being separated. Light is being separated, and we have darkness in between. But not just that. This sentence also tells us that light is separating darkness from itself. In other words, this sentence tells us that in the middle of a galaxy, you might find, in some of them at least, so you'll have this separation, you'll find a black hole. You'll find darkness inside the light, locked inside the light. And that's what you have here. You have light separated by darkness, and you have darkness being separated by light. Ready for the third level? Let's go even deeper. Let's go to the explanation. So we have water that we don't understand where they came from. And let me show you what I believe that is the right explanation for that. He created the place and the matter. And the matter was chaotic and was dark over the surface of a deep. And we said a deep is a place where there are water, or a place where you can get water from or out of. And what I'm telling you here is that earth and water are actually one and the same. But earth is the name of the unstable, not really formed yet matter. And once it's formed, it becomes water. I have two proofs for that. First, I want to show you how it looks like. I'm going to create formless matter the way we know, or the way science believes that it is today. That's the theory today. And the theory says that we have quarks. These are the subparticles of the proton, the nucleus of the atom. And when they're apart, it's a mess. It's nothing. It's nothing specific. Right? It's chaos. And so when they're apart, that means that there is vacuum in between, complete darkness. That's the darkness over the deep. But in this deep, water are hiding. That means that in this deep, if we close this gap and we make it a proton, single proton is the nucleus of the first matter created, which is the basic building block of water. One proton is what one atom of hydrogen has as a nucleus. And water, as you know, are also referred as hydro when you're dehydrated, for example, because one molecule of water is actually 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen. And so since the basic building block of water is hydrogen, you also refer to it as hydro. And same thing in Hebrew. Hydrogen is called meiman, from the name ma'im. Meiman, ma'im. Ma'im is what's written here. Sorry. Ma'im is what's written here over the surface of the water in Hebrew, ma'im. So what I'm telling you is that ma'im is actually meiman. Or to be more specific, is just 1 proton before becoming a full atom of hydrogen. To become full atom of hydrogen, it also needs to get an electron. And so we have Spirit of God hovering over the water. So if I want to put a spirit over here, that would be something that I have no idea how to draw. But if the real translation of the word in Hebrew is actually wind, and it's wind over water, then that would be an actually poetic explanation of the concept of wave, wind over water. And so we have waves over the hydrogen. And as we know from quantum mechanics, the electron, if not observed, is actually in superposition. He's like a wave all around, in every place around the proton. And that's exactly what you have here. You have a wave over the surface of 1 proton. And so together you have hydrogen. 1 atom of hydrogen. Now God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now for an atom to emit, for an electron specifically, to emit light, we said this is emission, right? We said that God said, that's output. So for it to emit out light, photon, what needs to happen is that first, or technically it's not first, but this needs to be observed. And when it's observed, the electron will be in a specific place, a specific level of energy. And for it to emit a photon, it needs to lose energy. And for that, it needs to go down in his energy level to a lower level. And then it emits a photon. Now, what we have in the next 2 verses is admission of a photon, and God observing light as good. He is seeing God. He's seeing the light as good, but he's actually observing, and that's the observation that collapses the wave function and allows the admission of a photon, the admission of light. And last thing, but not least, he created time. But I'm going to add one more thing to that, just to show you how beautiful that is. I'm going to move one more verse forward to the first verse of the second day. God said that there is, it says a vault, but it's more of a background in Hebrew, this word. I'm not going to go deeper into that, just to show you on what I just drew, what's beautiful here. God tells you there's a vault between the water. In Hebrew, there is a background in the water, and it separates between water to the water. So now he's actually telling you that there is a difference between the water that I've talked about over here. I want you to look at this symbol down here, like a plus sign. That's what we refer to as hydrogen, right? And here in the separation, it tells you that there is a background inside my atom of hydrogen, and that's exactly what you have here. That's the background that now you have. That's this. Looks like Earth atmosphere as well, if this is Earth like we said in the beginning. Just like Earth, we have the atmosphere over here around it, the background. And this background separates from water to water, separates from hydrogen atom to water as you know it, water with minus, not with a plus sign. So this vault, this background within the water, within the hydrogen, separates between water to the hydrogen. What does that mean? How does that separate between water to hydrogen? Because to get water, you need more than one atom. You need two atoms and an atom of oxygen. And so the separation between one atom to a molecule is this background. That's what separates one atom from another. And combining them is what creates water. So if you look at the water molecule, what separates between one hydrogen atom to another is this background, which is actually the end of the magnetic field, the end of the energy. That's the background. And so far, we've been through three layers. The simple layer, we showed you in the beginning, you have sky, you have earth. The hint where you saw this, the explanation that tells you how this came to be, just like science explains it. You have subatomic particle combining to create a nucleus. Nucleus finds another subatomic particle, which is an electron, which is actually a wave around the proton. This is how you have a hydrogen atom, and this is the first matter created, and that's science talking, not just the book of Genesis. And then you have the admission of a photon, because you have a lower, the electron goes lower in energy and admits a photon. And this needs to happen, the collapse of the wave function. Otherwise, matter will not actually exist in one place and combine with each other. They will not, the pieces will not combine to larger forms like stars and galaxies and so on and so forth. So these are the first three layers. Now I want to show you what is the big secret that is lost in translation of the first day alone. And for that, all I need is just these two words, and the secret is embedded within this first letter. I said in the beginning that this word is translated as in the beginning because the creation of the world is explained as the birth of the world. And since at birth the head comes first, then this word, which is actually head, is considered to be first. But why, if it's first, there is in the? Why doesn't it just say, first God created the heavens and the earth? Also in Hebrew, we don't need this letter. It could have just said, Reshit bara Elohim, without this b, without in the. Now, you need this because this tells you the secret. The secret is that it's all in the head. That's what this says, in the head. You don't need to go and find deeper explanation. Why is it head and head is actually first because it's birth? No, just look at the word. That's what it says. In the head. With even if you take the next letter here, it actually says in my head. But as we said, God is actually a male, a female, and many. And so we have those two letters explaining that as well. But the point is that it's in the head. And this is why, if you want to understand the word creation, you need to look for a verb that happens in the head. We don't assume God has a physical head or a physical brain. So in the head, what verbs can you have? You can have thinking, imagining, dreaming. These are things that happen in the head. How do you know that this is something that happens in the head? If you look in the gray square, you will find that this word is actually in the head. Physically, these three letters are the first three letters of this word. So the verb is in the head. It gives you all the explanation that you need. I believe that this is imagining. God imagined the sky and the earth, the heavens and the earth, but not just those two things. Because everything he does starts with and God said, and God saw, and God called, and God said. Sometimes in English you have this and, but in Hebrew it's always and. And in other words, God imagined the sky and the earth, and he said there will be light, and he separated the light from the darkness, and he called the night and. So he imagined that and that and that and that. Everything is imagined. Everything is only in a big consciousness. And since we are in his image of a sort, our consciousness is a part of his consciousness, then everything is in our head. Everything is in our imagination. That was just the first day, the first 5 verses. And all of that is lost in translation. On my next videos, I'm going to tell you about Adam and Eve and what's really happened over there. And I'm going to tell you about Cain and Abel and what happened over there. And I'm going to show you deeper and deeper meanings that are embedded within the Hebrew words that are all lost in translation. Thank you very much.